right, everyone. We are good to go. We are good to start. I just spoke to Shreya and she's all set as well. So she can hear us, she can see us, and she will turn on her camera in just a bit for us. But without further ado, we will get started. I'm going to share a quick clip for us to begin with. And team, give me a thumbs up when you can hear and see my screen. I do not know how many of you actually took the dare to delete. I, for one, did not dare to dare. But nevertheless, I think such an apt example to begin with as we talk about navigating through uncertainty, taking paths untraveled and roads untraveled, be it in our vehicles or in life. Right. And if we take a peek at the history of mobility, whether we see what Dr. West did, or we look at the other innovations right from the 18th century, we're talking about innovation of wipers in cars, we're talking about heating systems in cars, we're talking about ergonomic designs for trucks and otherwise. It's very clear that the history of mobility is enriched with unmistakable impact. So definitely a voice at the table is far more than just sound in the room. Our voices hold power, power to contribute, power to make a difference. So as we gather here today, we are with a wonderful women panel who have leveraged their voices at the right time, in the right rooms, in the right way, who have not waited for direction, who have paved their own path, especially under uncertainty, who have been bold to speak and have been courageous to walk the path that they should, right? So the next 90 minutes, we are going to speak about carving new possibilities and reimagining mobility. 6 years ago, when we actually started with KPIT Women in Mobility, it started out as just one simple urge to make a difference and to help share learnings, make sure that we can be what we can see, just in a way so that people can listen to stories. And what started out as one small effort is very heartening to see now, along with more than 25 companies and NGOs and partners along the globe across 7 countries, we have seen impact and we have been able to collectively make impact for thousands of women. So thank you for everybody who's been on this journey all throughout. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to welcome you all for KPIT Women in Mobility Edition 6. Now, before we move forward, there are 2 men here whom some of you have heard right from the beginning. It is a delight personally for me to work very closely with these 2 leaders who from the get-go, since this initiative was actually initiated, have walked the talk and have been absolute true champions of our cause. So I'm going to welcome one of them to speak right now and one of them to speak a little later, Chinmay Pandit, President of KPIT Americas. I would urge you to welcome our panelists.
Thank you, Jayda. Welcome to all the panelists. I'm very, very glad you were able to prioritize time for us to spend time and share your lessons, share your stories to inspire, 463 and counting people who are going to listen to you and multiply that as we go through the year. Jayda gave the example of Dr. West. It's a fantastic example, and there are so many examples which need to be highlighted, and I'm really looking forward to examples which you will bring with your personal growth. All of you are fantastic leaders, great great careers, and I'm sure it'll be even more fantastic as we go ahead. But to hear what it means, what it means to you, the kind of the sacrifices you make and the kind of priorities you set up to get here, I think is always a lesson and a learning for me. So I'm very excited you're spending time and you're talking with all of us and sharing that journey. I think looking at inspiration and then comes applying it to each of us in our own journey, right? That's the second phase, but just the ability to hear from you and learn from you and absorb is something which I'm really looking forward. I know Jayda will do a fantastic job in getting the best out of you. So I'm very excited that we are having this panel and I'm going to get to hear all of you. Thank you and welcome again. Back to you, Jayda.
Thank you, Chinmay. So we have panelists joining from US, from India, and of course we have our audience who is joining us from the US, from India, from Thailand, from Sweden. I had somebody who sent me a question from Tunisia. So we have women from all over, and we are looking forward to a fantastic session. Without further ado, we are going to get started. And panelists, let's look at the flow once, just so that everybody is aware. We look at the questions. Once the question round is done, of course, feel free to add to what someone else is going to say. If you have a specific thought to share, please do not hold back. We are looking forward to all of your stories. We will do a rapid fire round. I have got messages since morning. People are waiting for it, so we definitely want to get to it. The last 10 minutes, all our audience, we will take your questions. Chat will be enabled for you at that time. I can see hands being raised. You will get your chats in the last 10-15 minutes where you can start pouring your questions, and we will, like always, of course, take your questions. All right, so coming to our very first question, and my first question is to you, Ashwini. In the last couple of years, especially, right, we have seen our industry change dramatically. We've seen a change that we've probably not seen in 100 years before. There is software coming to the center of things. There is now AI coming into place. There are better vehicles being demanded. There is more competition. There are better features being asked for. Everything everyone wants at competitive costs. So that's another pressure that everybody is dealing with. Despite all the challenges and despite all the competition and where we stand, what is it that excites you in the next 5 years? And what do you see as the key skill set coming to the fore?
Yeah, thank you, Jayda. It's wonderful to see all the accomplished women on this panel. I hope I get a chance to meet you all in person someday. So I think you're absolutely right. If anything has been constant for the last 5 to 6 years, it's been change and challenge, right? So I think for me personally, change is actually super exciting. I think monotony to me personally is boring. So I find the challenges that come out of change to be super exhilarating and a way to actually make tremendous impact. And if you think about the mobility industry, especially, I think there's a lot of hype and buzz around AI and software defined vehicles and all of that, which is awesome. But at the end of the day, I think the core of the mobility industry is tied to be able to move people, move products, move anything that touches our vehicle safely from point A to point B. It's one of the very few industries where it's like a melting pot where you have so many different engineering streams that come together to make one final product, right? You have electrical people, you have mechanical engineers, you have software engineers, you have information technology engineers, right? And you have chassis engineers. You just have such a melting pot when it comes to the mobility industry that needs to come together to make this fascinating machine called the automotive vehicle. Whether you're in commercial vehicle or you're in rail or you're in light duty, it doesn't matter. They're all a melting pot, right? So I think the ability to be able to be part of such a transformation is super exciting. I think if we embrace that change and embrace that challenge fully, I think we can probably create an industry that is almost unstoppable, right? We want our brakes to work, but the industry can't be unstoppable, where we can actually create such exhilarating experiences for customers, right? Whether people are focused on safely getting from one point to another, whether they're focused on dynamic driving experiences, or they're focused on, connectivity while they're on the road, moving from one point to another. There's no other machine that does all of this at the same time for the customer base. And I think especially when we think about the decision-making process for light duty vehicles, especially, I think we underestimate the amount of influence women have in that decision process, right? So I think having women in the workforce can be a super competitive advantage to companies, because then you have that interior insight into how that decision process can work and how you can differentiate your products from the rest of the competition. So I think the rate of change is not going to slow down. The challenges are not going to slow down. If it was COVID in 2020, then it was the chips challenge, then there's the talent shortage, then there's tariffs. I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon. But I think if we have the mindset to embrace it, there's no stopping us.
Completely agree, and we are going to look at how to embrace all of that change. Beth, tell me what excites you in the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, and just to jump right on to Ashwini's comments, because those are exactly the same things that excite me. I look at, my journey through the electrification, and when I started, we were converting vehicles in university by hacking onto the network and, not having a good relationship with the OEM, just trying to, reverse engineer what interfaces needed to stay. And the technology was really open at that time, and there was not as much security, and the disciplines that needed to make those first electric vehicles that we had were just, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, systems, and technicians. And then we just built it and got going. And, flash forward to where we are now, it is so dynamic, and it is following a lot more with, IT infrastructure and the journey that they went through from the nascent stage of the internet, when everything was open and exciting and everybody was, sharing information. And now there's layers of security and protocols and making sure that we have transparency across platforms. And so that's a lot what we're dealing right now in e-mobility. And I feel like this is a really exciting time because it's moving really fast, and there is threads that we can connect to in other industries to learn from and pattern. And what's really exciting for me specifically is I'm connecting into a lot more disciplines and learning, because I feel like my career has all been about listening and learning, and I make myself as a student all the time. And so I've moved on from just, mechanical engineering and controls algorithms to learning a lot more about IP protocols and security. And I love seeing how people are generating ideas with AI and bringing it into the development stream. And so I'm just really inspired by all the touch points that come together and the diverse perspectives that come together to build these products. So
we're definitely going to talk about continuous learning and what we need to do and how do we enable frameworks for continuous learning later, Beth. But meanwhile, Shiba, next 5 years for you.
Next 5 years, I think, like Elizabeth and Ashwini mentioned, right? I think it would be a continuous churn of ideas, innovations that will come along the way. And for me, I feel that, right, these are exciting times. There are different technologies, but also there are other players in the field, right? Like, the regulatory things coming at us, geopolitical things, and, a lot of things that can really impact where we go. And for me, one of the biggest things that I want to look at is connected mobility, right? Because right now, mobility is sort of, for me, it's a freedom that we give people to pursue whatever they want to do. Without mobility, and I'm in a situation where I fractured my right hand about a month back, and I am just inside the house. And I was always thinking that, what if we had an autonomous vehicle? I could just go to work every day and come back, right? So there are like a lot of possibilities that sort of, when we really put it across the social spectrum, will have a lot of impact on different kinds of people at different levels. That is what excites me, because at the end of the day, it all has to link to our customer base, what people need and what people want, and how do we bring all the innovation and the technologies that are coming our way to better mankind, is what I would put it, right? So how do we take it from where we are at? Because as engineers, as leaders in your own field, right, everybody is excited about what next. How can we make the company profitable? But unless it really touches our customer base in the ways they want it, that is where innovation lies, is what I feel, right? How do we innovate with these technologies to make things better that our customers love and want to adopt to? So it's a really exciting time. And I feel that, as women, because we have so many different hats, we are the ones that can really bring that one example, that one use case, right? And that one customer need to the top of our priority list, and make innovations happen in those areas. So it's an exciting time for all of us. But I think we need to focus on what is that product that excites everybody else around us.
I'm glad you mentioned about innovation, and we are going to talk about what is it that is actually driving innovation a little later, right? I have said this before, and I always say that it's driven the example that you just gave, that you would have loved to have an autonomous vehicle right now at the door, right? How environment and experiences actually influence an innovative mind and a solution-oriented mindset. But we'll come to that later. But Cheryl, from the technology side, what's on your top mind for the next 3 to 5 years? Cheryl, you're on mute.
Was that to me?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm unmuted. So what I'm excited about is I come from a powertrain background. So deep inside embedded controls, thinking about when I was at GM early on, the slogan was world's best powertrains, for example, and being able to see that sort of turned upside down and start to view all of these technologies in the vehicle with a different lens to say, what is the customer actually expecting to do with their vehicle? What are their performance expectations? What do they actually want, which is not necessarily what they're asking for. For example, if they want to interact with their vehicle that's sitting in their parking lot and turn on the cameras and look around, because the vehicles have cameras now, how do we build an infrastructure that enables that? And then how do you flip what is the basic infrastructure within, say, the car in a way that directly enables all of these things, and being able to interpret what customers actually want. And so, like, one of the biggest mindset shifts that I think we're in the middle of is it's the difference between a continuous iteration or improvement on what we've done for years, but it's an opportunity to actually flip it upside down and say, what should we be doing long term? How do we rethink the entire technology space? How do we, really zoom into, if for example, preserving availability of features for extended periods of time is a core component of what our customers are asking for, what would we need to do technology-wise to be able to enable that, which might not be a continuous improvement on what we've done for decades. It might be a completely different technology that we have to think about. How do we adapt to the mobility space? What would it take? What are the unique constraints? And so I think having that opportunity and being in the middle of trying to interpret, and synthesize new requirements based on everything that people are starting to ask us for is a really, really unique space. And I think it's unique, not just, for the next 5 years, but it's something that a lot of us have already started down that journey. And then the question is, well, how fast can I get there? Because the future looks amazing.
Future does look amazing. Shreya, welcoming you to join the conversation. You were recently at the much talked about AI Summit in India. Give us a peek into what happened there and what do you see from upskilling perspective as we all maneuver towards it?
What was interesting is the dichotomy of what was being spoken in the room versus how, for instance, as an example, traffic was being managed outside, right? On the inside, here we are discussing how AI is going to do all of this incredible stuff. But right out there in the parking lots, we couldn't manage the kind of crowd there was. So we are dealing with a certain dichotomy. And I think it's interesting to note how a lot of these promises will only be delivered when you actually have seats and voices and representation at the table that need to be there. For the longest time in history, cars have been more unsafe for women. More women die in car crashes than men do because cars were fundamentally designed around male bodies, right? And mobility has always been driven from a structurally, marketing-wise, in all forms and ways, as if boys and toys and cars is something that we've always heard. But what's really interesting is the more women you have and the more disabled people you have and the more, LGBTQ folks you have designing this. History has proven over and over again that when minorities design, there is something in it for everybody, right? So the table that we're building for mobility becomes larger, taller, bigger, better. What would be amazing and incredible to watch is when we can translate those promises in cushy air-conditioned boardrooms onto real-life examples of how that woman who has cancer in a tier 3 city or a town who does not have access to mobility and medication because she's not allowed to go, finds a way to go find that. I think the promise is in the impact that innovation can create. And I'm very excited to look at what that looks like, not just at the AI Summit, but when AI actually truly transforms lives at the grassroots level.
Fabulous. Thank you, Shreya. So let's all go back to, the beginning of our careers, right? We all know that the future looks great, but we are on this path and our path started right at the beginning. And if we had to backtrack a little bit in the first few years, let's look at what drove our decisions in the early years to make these choices in the first place. We see, in spite of the fact that we women, like you rightly said, Shreya, can make a big impact when it comes into this industry, we still do not see it's girls and women out there. I remember when I had my first 5-6 rounds of KPIT interviews 21 years odd back, I was reluctant to move out of the manufacturing business that I was with on the family side and come into KPIT, because my first thought at that time, as in my early 20s, was, oh, I really don't like computers, right? So what am I going to do at KPIT? And I remember my dad at that time telling me 2 reasons why you were going to go for this interview. Number one, you're not going to grow unless you jump out of your comfort zone and you become too comfortable with what you are doing because you're doing well. And 2, the choice of right fit, right? Once you go and once you see this world is a lot more than sitting in front of a computer, and the impact that can be created, it can definitely be a right fit. So let's go back to, why we are where we are. Ashwini.
So I think probably a lot of the women can relate to this. I'm obviously, it's quite obvious. I'm born and raised from India, so I did my bachelor's in mechanical engineering from India. And it can be a very lonely place for women is stream of engineering, especially, right? I think even today, according to Society of Women Engineers, we're only 6% of enrollees are women in that stream. So very early on, I think I got very comfortable being amongst people that didn't look like me, that didn't behave like me, that didn't talk like me. So early on, I think because I got so comfortable, I was more focused on fitting in versus actually being comfortable standing out, right? So that was the big switch in the first 5 years that I had to make with my career, because I was so happy to be called a bro, be part of the bro group and the bro promise, bro code, whatever was existing at that time, right? But I also didn't understand that I was robbing myself and robbing the company that I served of being able to bring my own diverse perspectives to the table, that by standing out, I was actually adding more to the whole opportunity pie for the company and for myself, rather than trying to fit in. So I completely understand what your dad told you, but I also think we have to get comfortable by not feeling like we're part of the pack, not feeling like we sometimes have to stand out, right? So I think that was the biggest switch I had to make as part of the journey I've had. And that's one thing I tell a lot of the women I talk to, because I'm very big on supporting women build their thriving careers. And I think it's okay that you feel out of place. It's okay that you feel like you have a different perspective. And that's why they hired you, and that's why you are where you are, right? Your voice is important. You've earned your seat at the table. And you don't need validation from the room or from the people in the room. So that's maybe the early lesson that I had to learn, which I think significantly changed my trajectory once I started implementing it. It took a while, right? It took a while. It was scary, but it took a while. But once I learned it, I think my trajectory actually took off.
No, perfect. And we are going to talk about how do you develop this bit. For some are born with it, and I completely relate to it, where you do not have to fit in, and it is great to not fit in, right? And that's your added piece that fits into a puzzle because you are unique. What do we do for women who actually are not as comfortable for, not being like the others? And we'll come to that later. But Cheryl, meanwhile, why tech? There are different ways in which you could have made impact. What made you choose tech?
I like knowing things, and I like being the person who has the deep sort of technical background in problems. And I really get what really makes me tick is solving problems that we don't have the solutions for. And so once I realized that, I also wasn't sure I wanted to say work with computers, or I didn't even know I wanted to be an electrical engineer. When I first started college, I knew I wanted to do some sort of engineering, but it didn't feel like, based on what I knew then, that I was going to have a tangible outcome. And then as I started to see what I could actually do with my technical knowledge and my problem solving capability and my ability to articulate like recommended solutions to a community of people as the subject matter expert. And I really enjoyed being in front of teams of people, pulling them in a direction that was solving technical problems. That's what made me realize that I wanted to not only do this, but move into a technical leadership role. And that was not the most obvious career path for me. I did not have a lot of women role models. I also didn't have a lot of, I'll say, direct leadership, even in my career journey when I was starting out, because there were a lot of questions of like, what do you want to do? What job do you want? What specific role do you want? And once I realized that I wanted to be the person at the front of the room articulating the recommended solutions to these really challenging technical problems, and I said, how do I find that job? I don't know what it is, and I don't know how to get there, but that's the type of role that I want. I was able to build up a lot of support within my community to get there. So that's kind of my journey, but it was definitely not clear when I started. I also didn't know exactly what type of problems I wanted to solve, but I figured out that I was good at controls, and I like having an impact on what happens in vehicles. It's a very tangible outcome that you can see and you can describe to people, and I like having that, that direct impact on the user community, and that's what led me to be where I am today.
Perfect. And like we say a lot of times internally, to the women around us, to a lot of new joinees who come in, and we say, if you don't see one, be one. So if you don't see a role model, you can just grow into one. But Beth, moving forward in the career journey, right? What made you stay in this?
Good question, because I actually started out in mobility and then took a break. So I had a very similar path of, being the only woman in mobility engineering in university. In my first jobs, I always knew that I wanted to be in mobility. Once I came to a university and saw a student project with cars that students had built by themselves, and I just said, I have to be a part of that. And day one showing up at university, finally after getting accepted, walked straight to the lab. I'm over there. But all those years that I was in university and the few years outside, I was the only woman. And it was the same thing of just, I didn't realize it was a quiet identity that I was kind of proud that I was doing this. But I also didn't feel like I could show up like a woman and talk about these things in that environment because I had to fit in as the only space. And then for some dynamics that were happening in around 2010, I kind of actually took a step out and went into a different industry for a number of years. And in that industry, it is a lot more equitable. I was working with women every day now, and the tone changed, and it was no longer something that I felt stood out internally, is that I could actually just be myself in the room now and have some dialogues on the side and have a network and connection. So that really impacted when I finally came back into the mobility segment, is that I realized I needed to be that person in that space. So I still to this day have not had a female manager, but I'm lucky to work in an organization that has a lot of women leaders. And so I do see examples in my organization that I can reflect on and network. But I did get a feedback at one point. Someone that reports to me was like, I've never had a female manager, and this is a new experience for her. And I realized that's the same for me. I've never had one. So it's still a journey, and it's still a space where, I'm still learning how to make a bigger impact, but I'm demonstrating it first. So.
We do see the trickle of the number of women as we go higher, trickling even lower and lower with lesser number in leadership roles. So can relate when you say I've not had a female manager, and we're hoping that that's going to change very soon. We'll come to that. But Shubha, what we see is around 5 and 10 years of being in a role. That's another dip of when women start quietly exiting for multiple reasons. It could be they didn't have the kind of manager they wanted, the kind of role they wanted. Things change on your personal side. You get into other commitments at home. Have you been in a position at 5-10 years when you thought, I need a change? And what kept you here?
Okay. I think for most women, we can relate to this, right? Because as you progress in life, right? When you're single, when you're out of college, you have that you're independent, you're all alone. And then once you have a family, and then once you have kids, your priorities flip, right? So I always tell people, when I mentor women, right, you have to look at the balance, because at the end of the day, you need to have peace of mind, right? So look at how you want to progress your career based on what stage of life you're in and what your priorities are. So I'll just give you an example. We had to move back to India when my kids were 6 years and 3 years old. And then I had to take on a project that required a lot of time. And I was in Bangalore, and you heard about Bangalore traffic, right? I had 1 way 2-hour drive. 2-hour drive one way. So 4 hours I used to waste in traffic, right? So, but I had a support system around me. My family was from Bangalore, so everybody was there. And I used to always feel guilty that I was not there for my kids, right? And every day it was a tussle between, what should I focus on tomorrow, right? But what I found out, kids are very resilient. As long as they're well fed and loud, they don't really care whether it's from their mom or from their grandmom or from their aunts, right? So I would always feel that, someday my kids will complain to me about it, that I was not there. But I used to make sure that I attended all their major events, like, whether they're part of a sports event or whatever. But there are some things that happen regularly. There's science fairs and things like that. But I would never go there. I would send my mom or my sister to cover for me, right? Till date, they haven't complained. They are like 21 and 24 now. So they haven't complained till now. So I keep telling women, right? You have to focus on what you want. You have to prioritize your life and your career, right? And there are some people who basically prioritize their career, but there are others around them who actually put them down. And we women put each other down sometimes because I always tell women are women's worst enemies. And so it is up to you what gives you peace of mind to do that, right? And also look at what your intrinsic personality is. For me, about 2 or 3 years into a role, I sort of start feeling bored, right? It's that knowledge that, oh, I can do it, but it takes effort and time, right? It's not difficult thing to do. So always I start looking out for something that challenges me more. Is it learning something new, going into a different space where I can contribute what I have learned already, but learn more and expand my horizons, right? So I'm very impulsive. So for me, sometimes it has been that, okay, it's a self-induced initiative, I think, that when I start getting that feeling that maybe, this is not a bigger challenge for me, I will try to find avenues or I will look for roles that will probably excite me. And it doesn't happen like overnight, right? So I would encourage people, like, I know there is a lot of focus on technical depth, but where we are at in the industry, you need breadth as well, right? Understanding silos, cross silos, the interfaces, and how everything connects together. So my background is from electronics and communication, and I started off in the telecom industry. I never expected that I would be in the mobility industry, right? So things just happen over time. And now, like anything and everything, like there are no swim lanes. I think everything converges, right? So at least for mobility, right? We build a product that converges everything, right? All different streams for engineering and all technology. So I think for me, that was it. Like, I understood that, why I'm feeling a sense of what I'm feeling and then what I need to excite myself. And that is why I think, I've stayed in this industry for this long.
Perfect. And I completely agree with you when it comes to interdisciplinary and horizontal, connecting the dots and thinking and application. We are going to come to that. But before that, Shreya, your journey has been very different. And there are a whole lot of things that you started out with. There has been marketing, there has been founding, you're running a great NGO today. So can you talk about some of the most boldest decisions that you made in your career that have been transformative in this path?
I think I started out as a journalist, and very early on, I realized that I had these dreams of being this environmental journalist, activist, writing. And, I was part of Greenpeace, I was part of United Nations Environment Program. And I think very early on, I realized the money is just not going to cut it, right? That I was not going to make enough to sustain. So I remember, and, Indian middle class household, you really want to provide, you really want to be that person who's also seeing wealth build in some form. So moved over to the corporate, did masters in mass communications. I remember being the university gold medalist. I did a full-time master's with a full-time job. I negotiated at college, I negotiated at work, and I sort of got them to give me the flexibility to do both together. I think hustle was always, I enjoyed it. It was something that gave me a lot of joy. And so I remember going through that journey, getting into marketing, but always impact stayed with me. CSR would always land in my lap because everybody would find that one person who had worked in the space of impact. And, DEI would always find itself way back to that feminist in the room. Some labels that work for you, right? And then with that journey, when this whole juncture happened of Anita B, I was on the board for India, and 3 months in, they asked me to run it. At that time, I was holding an offer from Apple for India marketing, heading India marketing. And I was like, I hadn't gone to the stage of saying, give it to me on paper. But Anita B happened. And I remember asking myself this, should I sell phones or should I work in a space where I can work for women and with women and advancing their careers? And the answer was just right there. I think it made so much sense for me to work in the space of my purpose intersecting with my passion and making that my career. So I think, all roads sort of converge into that one final outcome. And this seemed to be it for me. It was out of the blue. It was something I'm sure everybody who saw me making that decision on the outside was like, what? But I don't think it's been a hard journey, because the year I joined is when certain powers that are currently at the fore took over, and I got the backlash that it did. So just it was a very interesting road that paved itself ahead, but 2.5 years in now, and I can say there has been no looking back.
No, beautiful, very beautiful. The way I say it to my kids and my team members, right? Passion gets you started, but I think purpose keeps you going. So wonderful to see this. Let's go to Ashwini to talk about your top 3 pillars of success. What do you think has made you successful in this journey so far?
But there are so many people and so many factors, so it's really hard to narrow it down. But I think probably 3 things, right? So one is having big dreams, not just for yourself, but for everybody that's around you as well. Refusing to accept the status quo because it has always been done this way. And I think that ties back to what Shubha was talking about. I think the workplaces, cars, or whatever it may be, have not been designed with women in mind always, right? So if, unfortunately or fortunately, our biological clock is always in conflict with our career clock, there's no way to conquer it. But I refuse to accept that workplaces cannot support women to be able to manage through their careers. Like, if we women wait for the right time to find, okay, I'm going to go after this opportunity, or I'm going to go do this, you have to find your pace. But I'm saying, if you wait for that right time in your life, probably never comes, right? Your early career, you're most fertile, you have to have kids. And then your mid-career, you have to take care of your kids. And then menopause hits and everything goes out the door. So there is really no good time for women to go after things. So I think first is, I think, those big dreams for yourself and for the people around you. Second is having that resilience to keep going even when things are hard, right? Building that support network, not settling for status quo, and challenging what's going on around you and how things are built for you and the people around you. And the third part is probably making sure that you are clear about when you're going to say yes and when you're going to say no. Right. So I think knowing what your non-negotiables are, and making sure that the opportunities that come your way align with your purpose, like Shreya was talking, knowing what you're going to say yes to and knowing what you're going to say no to. I think so those 3, right? So the power of big dreams, having that resilience and challenging status quo, and then being able to have clarity in your mind as to how you're going to make decisions around what you're going to say yes to and what you're going to say no to. I think those probably are the 3 big movers for me in terms of career trajectory.
Perfect. Beth, what would you attribute your success to?
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, go ahead, Beth. Go ahead, Beth. No, go ahead.
No, that's fine. I actually a little bit different in that I think it's really important to understand the voices in the room and the voices that don't speak, and provide space and opportunity, or even challenge and ask why other voices aren't coming into the room. Because I work in a space where there's a lot of extroverted communication and people that dominate. And I've noticed a lot of times, especially women in large groups, if there are strong men having these dynamic conversations, I often see a lot less women engaging. And so I feel like it has been really important, and and productive by providing space and opportunity. It's very hard to do this on Zoom, especially if everybody's off camera, to witness it and witness those dynamics, but even just looking for those moments and pauses and interjecting myself to make that space available has brought a lot of good ideas to light that wouldn't show up in the urgency of the matter. The other is really humility and being okay and leaning into failure, because we've got to make decisions. Everything is moving really fast, and it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay if you make a decision and 10 years later you realize you had a mistake. So, you know, I pushed myself really hard, and I think a lot of women do this, is that, you know, we have a lot of voices in our head trying to keep us up and accurate, and, you know, this is our time to shine, and if we make a mistake, people are going to judge us. But in a couple examples where I have had, you know, made some significant mistakes, I realized that it was because at a point in time there was a quiet voice that I didn't challenge myself enough to pay attention to, and I moved ahead on a decision and missed that marker. So now I focus really heavily on making sure that there's space and communication of others.
Perfect. Success, though, is also built by teams, right, Beth? So if it's a team sport, success at the end of the day is sort of a team sport. How would you build a successful team where the whole is greater than the parts?
That's a good question. For one, within my team, I look for the listeners, people who can listen first before they lean to be understood. And because the free flowing of ideas is really important. One can spark, but if you've got people of different perspectives in the room, you can end up building a concept a lot better than if you had your silos and people that were subject matter experts in their own lanes. So within my team, I look for that cross collaboration and communication and giving space for others. The other is really just honesty and awareness of what we know and what we don't know. And when we admit and willing to admit that we don't know a lot in that space, that gives opportunities for others who may know more to speak up. So, yeah.
Perfect. Shubha, what's your secret sauce?
I don't think I have a secret sauce. It's been a journey, right? Like we said, I have been in rooms where, you know, I was the only person and I didn't say what was on my mind, and then I have regretted it for years. But what I have found is, like, if you have a spark, if you have an idea, right, build that network of people around you that believe in you and that they will support you, right? And then it's just an experimentation, right? And I should be really thankful. I work for General Motors, right? Then we have leaders who support experimentation, failing fast, right? And you don't get dinged because you failed, right? So for me, building that core group of people that can support your ideation, right? And work with you to do something. Like a lot of times, like in open meetings, I have been shot down, but then if I believed in it 100%, right, I would go and experiment and then, you know, showcase it that it's possible, right? So I would say that, you know, agility across teams, building that core group that believes in the same goal, and data-driven decision making, right? It's sometimes we take it too personal because it's my idea, right? So, but data-driven decision making will really help you balance what you're trying to do with new ideas, plus being part of a bigger team that can really embrace what you're trying to do with or without them, right? Like, you know, sometimes people take umbrage that they're not included in your bigger plans. But I think being very transparent, open, and at the base of it is curiosity, right? Like there are like a lot of different things that come your way. And I am the chair for our ERG right now, right? And then a lot of women reach out, right? It has become mainly women mentoring right now more than men. So they reach out, and sometimes I'm surprised because this is the next biggest initiative General Motors is working on, and they have no clue, right? There are emails sitting in their inbox, but I don't know, some people, right? Some, I can vouch for them because they are in those phases of life, right? They're needed everywhere. They're caregivers for their parents. They have little kids at home. I understand. But there are other people who are really upset about their career trajectory, but they're not putting that effort, right? It's like they push everything up to their managers. They feel that their managers have to take care of them, right? But unless you're vocal about what you want, what you need, and don't exhibit what your strengths are, and do your due diligence, right? Like you need to put in that basic effort of trying to understand what's happening around you, that basic curiosity. I think that is where many of the women, I think we get into that mode after we like Ashwini said, right? Like when we are out of our, maternal years going into menopause, we get into that mindset of, oh, okay, my career is stuck here. That's when we start focusing on our careers, and my career is stuck here. I don't know what to do. And they're set in their ways that, somebody's taking care of me. Somebody's responsible for my career path. Somebody will come and tell me one day that, oh, you're promoted. You are the project lead for this new initiative, right? So I think taking ownership of your career, having those candid conversations with your managers of what you want to do, right? And maybe it'll lead to failure. Don't be afraid of failure, right? And finding that group of people who support you, I think has been very critical in my success so far.
We're definitely going to come back to failure. But meanwhile, Ashwini, what do you look for while building a successful team?
I think people that know me, I know I obsess with the number 3. So anything we do is going to be around 3 things, right? So I find that high performing teams can center around 3 aspects, right? So you should have the room to debate, right? There's no point in just directing your team. There should be room for debate, but there should also be a clear decision maker. Like, you need everybody's voice, but you might not need everybody's vote to make the decision. And the third part is the drive to deliver. And I love everybody's point about failure, right? Like we do need to be able to experiment, but no business can continuously just fail, right? So I think we have to be careful not to romanticize failure, but instead romanticize the learnings from failure and not making the same mistake twice. So I think 3 aspects. So be able to debate, be able to decide decisively, know who gets to make the vote. And third is how do you deliver as a team? So I think these 3 things, if we can center the team around and they know clearly this is how we're going to operate, I have found that there's more clarity and there's less ambiguity. Because if we don't operate at a certain speed, at least within the corporate space, there's no doubt you're going to get left behind, right? So there's a lot of emphasis on speed. So I think these 3 aspects I have found to be super helpful when trying to build high-performing teams.
Interesting and very helpful. Cheryl, speaking about failure, since we are all saying success is built on moments of failure as well, or the learnings that we take from them, tell us about your biggest learning from one of your failures.
I would say my biggest learning is really how to get uncomfortable with uncertainty and how to really bring people along on your journey. There is a balancing act, especially if you're in a technical leadership role, in terms of being able to make recommendations and share emerging concerns about issues and really walk people through the trade-offs. Even when you don't have complete information. And as a very technical person, I want all the information. I want to have a 100% complete story before we either make a decision or before we change a decision. I don't know for sure that, that this isn't going to work, but I have I have a hunch, and how do I turn that into action? And there's a real art to figuring out how to bring people into that journey. So for me, that takes the form of giving people leading indicators of issues and translating that to what would happen if this was true, and being able to give people early insight into problems that are starting to emerge and what the outcome could be if the following things prove to be true. If you can do that, you can start to get ahead of what these failures are, but it also means that you don't have to wait until you have complete information, which for me has been a real learning experience. I'll just say a hard learned experience, because pulling the trigger too late and pulling the trigger too early and basically saying the sky is falling for sure without being able to translate that to why people care, neither one of those is right. The answer is somewhere in between. And I think the other piece of the puzzle is something that's been hard learned for me as well, which is there are really complicated technical solutions to some of the problems that we're setting out to solve. And sometimes, you get that aha moment and you say, I can do it. I found a way to solve this. I understand what it would take. But that's not enough. We also have to find a way to translate that to, but should we? Or why would I do this? Or what happens after this? This might be the technical solution, but it's not directionally aligned with what I want to do for the step after that. It might still be okay. It might be okay as long as you can present that information and say, I want everyone to understand that we can do this, but then to do the step after this, we actually have to rewind and go in a different direction. It might still be the right solution for the business. It might be the right solution for our customers, but being able to provide that translation is the other piece of the puzzle. And if you can do that, especially if you're in a role providing technical guidance, it means that you're starting to translate that to business objectives, or you're starting to translate that to, should we change strategy? And if you can do that, you don't need to have a 100% complete story. You just have to be that compelling voice in the room that starts to tell the story, get everyone aimed in that direction, and then they'll help. So.
Perfect. Talking about building success more on failures. Shreya, what has been your toughest moment in your career?
I think there have been quite a few transitions, but I have to say that dealing with last year, when we'd had the success of year one of bringing Grace Hopper back after 5 years, and it was grand and all kinds of magic. And then the next year, you have absolutely no control over the outcome because somebody somewhere decided that it was not cool to back women on their journeys, right? And our revenue was cut in less than half. We lost so many of our partners because they didn't want to be seen doing this work. They were committed to it, but they couldn't, support. So I think getting through last year and deciding to show up in the same sort of size and in the same kind of manner without scrounging was, I think, the hardest call. Everybody wanted, scale it down, they said, scale it down, they said. And I said, no way. If we scale down, we are shrinking. We are not going to shrink in a year where our voices need to be heard the loudest. And to have stood that. And I think what life has taught me, that success and failure are not binaries. It's just like black and white. There's so much of gray. I think there is no binary. I think success and failure is a spectrum. And when you're able to play with that spectrum, what if we were taught that success and failure are equally important? How would our lives look? Because we play with it with childlike excitement. We'd go through failure into success because we know failure is going to get you to success eventually. But if we were not so hardwired as people to look at it as women, because we take our failures so much more harder than our male counterparts, what if we took it like play, right? I think I'm teaching myself that success has to be on my terms, the way I define it, the way I want to show up for myself, for my family, for my people. And in a room that is safe and in a space that is, accepting unapologetically of who you are. There's no room for shame, guilt, any of that in correlation to failure. It's just another celebration, another bend in the road, and you move on to the next thing. And the next thing, and the next thing. And those next things keep getting bigger because your failure did not define to you how small or how big your success should be, right? You gave yourself the permission to open up the entire universe and say, hey, what's next? Bring it on.
Beautiful. I must share little things that we've been doing just to tweak to this, right? So traditionally, all of us know when we come home from school, generally we moms do it, and I'm sure our parents have done it to us when we were in school. The first thing was, what happened in school? Did you have fun? Consciously, one of the things that I have started doing with my kids, asking them is, did anything go wrong? Were you uncomfortable? What happened? Just the fact that you can talk about it, and we will celebrate your wins. We will celebrate your trophies. I know there are enough coming there, but we'll also understand failures and talk about them and speak. The other space where very consciously this is done, invariably we all see each other at work and we say, how are you doing? How was your weekend? One thing that we started doing over coffee and over lunches at work is, when was the last time you laughed at yourself? What went wrong? Did you hear about how the things went wrong? Just teaching us to learn to laugh at ourselves because it is okay, right? But we'll come to that. Shubha, have you been in a space where you thought, I can't do this any longer, right? This is one thing where we see some women coming to a spot and breaking down and saying, either I have a difficult manager, I have a difficult team member, or there's just too much going at home and too much going on at work, and I just have too much on my plate. Were you at a spot where you said, I just can't do this any longer? What pushed you?
Yes, there were a couple of times, I was in that situation, right? At home and at work, right? So there are two things. What I have had, I think I have been lucky to have like good managers in my career. So when I really wanted to scale back, because if it's something at home or like a health issue, or I had to take care of somebody, right? I've had those candid conversations with my manager where I wanted to scale back, right? What worked for me, and I would really advise other women, right? Put everything down on paper, right? Put the facts down on paper, take a hard look at it, and then, go confide in your manager. And a lot of times managers give you their insights on how you can handle it better, right? So for me, the one thing I have looked for in a career is I look at more than the role, I look at who I'll be reporting to, right? I have, based on my experience so far, right, I always look at who the hiring manager is. So we all will be drawn into circumstances where we have to make that balance happen. So I have had those tough discussions where I had to scale back, or sometimes where I really wanted to scale up, right? Take additional responsibilities as well. So not everything, like, I don't know, one of the panelists said here, not everything is about money, right? But if you really feel about a project that you want to be part of, or you can lead, have those discussions, right? Now, it might not lead you to a promotion or more money or whatever, but it will broaden your skills. It'll broaden your horizons and your experiences and learnings. So I have always been, I'm like more the vocal person. So I just go and, brainstorm with people. So I would say that more women have to address this like in a systematic way, right? Like put everything down on paper, do your assessment, what are the trade-offs you want to have, right? And have those discussions either with you. Leverage on, if you have mentors, like I have had some really good mentors, right? And we never talked about work. It was just me going, and then, sometimes like one of my mentors used to say, I know why you're here. Probably you're upset. I'm on the call, so I'll be half listening to you, just vent it out, right? So I have had mentors like that. And just that venting had made me feel so good. And then while I'm venting, I find the solution, right, to my own question. So I think we need to build a network and lean on that network. And sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, you get the answers, you find the answers to your questions. And And career wise, like when I have had a tough manager, I have ensured that I take my project to a logical conclusion, but I'm still looking out, because if I cannot really work for somebody or work with somebody, I make a graceful exit, right? So, but I have never thought about quitting because of all these circumstances, right? So I have, I think I should say, my own tricks of the trade that I use, but never ever have I felt that, because, I mean, world is full of all kinds of personalities, right? Somebody else might find it very difficult to work with me even. So it might be just a personality clash, or sometimes you don't get along with some people. But what I have found is that, I make my plan, I ensure that my deliverables are concluding or they have a logical solution, and then I look for other opportunities. So yes, there are times, but I think it should not be a dead end for anybody when you're in such situations. You can
So
work
glad
things
to
out.
mention about mentorship, because they do play a very, very
Yes, yeah.
crucial role. So Beth, what are the top 3 things that you learned from your mentor that you would like to pass on to everyone here?
So one of the key, Beth, go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
But Shubha, we'll let you add. We're definitely going to have you add later. Beth.
No, sorry for that. So from my mentor, first is passion, like just that spark, and seeing that spark pass through the community of other mentees has been something that I've held on to and tried to recreate in every space and every role that I'm in. So whether it's, formal or informal mentoring, just showing up with remembering exactly why I'm here, what it is, and that spark is tangible, even if it's not the topic of discussion. Just the energy is infectious. And so, I had wonderful mentors in the past that just felt really passionate about what they do, and that has led me through my career, because I could feed off of that. But then again, holding space and being curious, and every mentor has been a reflection of a mirror of what I am not sure at that moment, or I'm questioning, or I'm trying to figure out my purpose. Maybe something doesn't feel aligned, and having that mentor be the reflection back has been really helpful. So when I'm in conversations with mentees, this is the time for them. Is what's going on, and a lot of times we do not have to talk about work. We could talk about what's going on in your personal life. What passions have you outside of it, and then finding those and connecting them back to work, because maybe currently they're doing something that doesn't feel valuable, but if they see something outside and we can draw that in, then maybe they can help find and navigate their purpose. So just listening for those cues has been the real big part.
Beautiful. And Shubha, you were going to add something, so please add.
What the one biggest thing for me, the mentors, right, is listening, right? Sometimes you just want a sounding board. So you don't even want to hear an echo back, right? It is just, you want to take everything out, but you want somebody to be listening to you. So that listening, like I've had a couple of mentors who knew, right, that the answer is there within the person. They just needed to come out and say something, right? So for every mentor, like there are a lot of people who don't want to get into a mentorship as a mentor, because they're like, maybe I don't have anything to offer. And I always tell them, right, you just need to offer your ear. So, because people will figure out things as and when they're trying to explain. All you can have is ask why, what, how, and the basic 5 questions, and then people will figure out for themselves. So I think that is one of the skills I learned from my very first mentor, because they were just there, and it was actually a formal program that mandatorily was imposed on us. And it was not a voluntary thing. So I was not too much into like, what will I get out of a mentor? I don't have any problems, right? That's how, with that mindset, I went in. But what I got back was, I think, amplified 1,000 times. So I think the basic thing that when somebody looks for a mentor is not they won't give you answers, but they will be good listeners for you to find your own way, right? So I think that is what I sort of found in my mentors, and I try to inculcate when I'm in any mentoring session. So
Beautiful. Cheryl, three things that you learned from your mentor that you would like to pass along.
So I want to echo one of the things that was just said about talking about non-work things. I would say the most insightful thing I learned about myself in working with one of my mentors actually came from a discussion about what I do outside of work. I play in an orchestra. I play in a symphony orchestra I have for a long time. I play viola, which is in the middle of the orchestra, and I'm at the front of the viola section. And being able to describe what I really enjoy about that challenge, which is I love being able to tackle new challenging music. And I'm in the middle of the orchestra. I don't have the solos, but a lot of the art is in listening and pulling the team in the same direction and figuring out how to get to the finish line. And I love the challenge of tackling the new music. I don't live for the concerts. I know some of my peers do, especially the first violins, but I love breaking down and solving the problem and getting everyone to sort of weave together as part of a high performing team. My mentor is the one that made that connection for me. I hadn't realized that what I really enjoy in my work life is being in that same situation and being in the middle with indirect leadership of a team of people and figuring out how to break down and solve these really messy, complicated challenges. And once he made that connection for me, I was like, now I understand. Now I understand what I actually need to be doing, like what makes me tick, why I enjoy these types of jobs and not these others. So for me, having that connection was really valuable. I think the other thing that is really helpful for me is I got more out of mentors that I already had, I'll say some relationship with or some reason to be talking to them than I did out of a formal mentoring program. So people who either had reached out to me or who I had some tangential interactions with and they knew a little bit about my space. Then I did a formal mentoring program where I was paired with someone, but that person and I had, I'll say, no frame of reference in terms of what we did, the parts of the organization we worked in, even our interests were not that well matched. So a lot of the mentoring better mentoring comes from people where you have at least that one dimension of connection that you can use as a frame of reference. And then I think the third piece actually comes from my own role as a mentor for a lot of other people. I do a lot of informal mentoring for people where I'll meet with them 1 or 2 times and we'll say, like, what do what's the most important thing? And sometimes they want to leverage my network. They will say, I'm really interested in doing this type of work. I don't even know if we do that at the company. Can you help me find a part of the organization that might have work similar to what I think I might be interested in getting into, and I can talk to them. Or I had someone come to me recently and say, I might want to be a chief engineer. I'm not really sure what goes into being a chief engineer. I don't know what kind of roles or experiences I need. Now, I'm not a chief engineer, but I know chief engineers, and I was able to reach out to several and actually get them connected with this person to be able to provide that guidance. So don't necessarily think that you need to know all the things. Think about your network as part of the reason why you're mentoring.
Fantastic, and I completely agree with bringing the things outside that of work that you do and connecting the dots. We play several roles. I think every role has dots connecting, and it's like a map where you can actually take learnings from one and apply to the other. I always say being moms at home makes us better professionals. We talk about raising kids, but I think we raise ourselves in the process. We learn to empathize better. We learn to manage multiple things at the same time, and so many skill sets that we can draw horizontally from and apply horizontally for Shreya. You've been doing a lot of things outside of work as well. You're a dancer, you're an actor, you've been an activist. What are those top 3 things that you sort of connect the dots with and apply horizontally across?
I think words for me are my poetry comes out in so much of what I do. I think I write from a space of absolute authenticity and honesty, and I'm happiest when I'm writing, right? So many times before I even say it, I probably write it out and I feel like I'm very anchored to my truth. So writing helps me deeply anchor my leadership as well. Audacious Her, which is this book that is reflective writing based, it's psychotherapy based, is a book that Nabita and I have just written. It's getting into publishing, and the entire book is actually reflections from both our leadership journeys. So writing is one for sure. Movement, dance. I love the idea of dance in life, right? Imagine being able to dance with whatever comes your way. Imagine being able to dance with that challenge. Imagine actually being able to dance with that really difficult boss who's giving you so much trouble. Imagine if you were to play some music and say, hey, can we dance now? I know it sounds absolutely absurd, but when I do that in my head, something changes, right? The complexity of something eases. So I love the metaphor of dance into so many things in life, leadership. So that's one for sure. So words and dancing. And I think the other is just to be able to be mindfully present. When you do so much, it's very often that you're pulled in so many directions. But when you're sitting with that one thing, I think to just pour into it your whole self and to just show up in your fullness, I think is one of the most powerful things that doing multiple things teaches you. Because I'm sure Cheryl will say when she's playing how immersed she is, and it's in her body, it's in her being, right? So when you do something like that, it's so intrinsic. And I think if we can be present like that to wherever we're at any point in time, to innovation, to craft, to learning, to mentoring, to all of these beautiful things that we all do, I think we'd find life a lot more valuable and meaningful. So I see those three as my totems.
Beautiful, Shreya. You mentioned about having the difficult situation of maybe somebody not being able to talk to their manager and trying to break that down and simplify it. Beth, can you take us into your mind? How do you deal with difficult people? Is there a framework?
Yes. So again, I feel like I'm saying this a lot. I seek first to understand and try to give space for them to speak. It is difficult, but try to understand what is the root behind that, and then address the conflict up front. And there's different styles of conflict management, but when there is difficulty, that's the time to experiment with different ways that you can bring both to the table to resolve that conflict or resolve that differences of opinion. And the insight might be on my side, it might be on the other person's side. And so just having that humility and like, we've got to come together to figure this out. But just taking that moment up front to try to put myself in their shoes first, to understand as best as I can, ask questions, and then bring that conflict up front when I actually can pinpoint what the differences are.
Very important. And speaking of conflict management, like you just said, there can be different styles of managing conflict, and this could be with difficult people around you, this could be with decision makers, this could be with team members. Ashwini, what's your best style when it comes to conflict management? Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, sure. My thought process around conflict, I think, especially in corporations, all the functions are set up in a way to inherently have conflict. So what I mean by that is if you just let the engineers do whatever they want and they keep building the best product ever, there's two things that will happen. The product will never come out because they'll keep tinkering. And two, it'll be so darn expensive, nobody can afford it, right? So that's why you have purchasing people, you have the sales people, you have manufacturing. So it has to be able to actually be manufactured and come out. So I think understanding that conflict is actually a healthy thing that helps us move the business forward to a meaningful spot, I think is the first step, right? So understanding this conflict is not personal. It's because we inherently have different functions and in some ways maybe competing priorities sometimes. But what is important, so the understanding that the conflict is healthy is the first step, right? It's a healthy point to be in. Because if everybody's agreeing, someone's not doing their job, right? So the second part is to really ground yourself in saying, what's the end goal? can we agree on the end goal? If the end goal is mostly the same for organizations, right, is deliver great products for your customers that they love and they're delighted by. So grounding yourself in that and then helping the steps to resolve the conflict, to move ourselves to that end point is also super helpful. Like bringing everybody back and saying, okay, I know it feels very tense right now, but the end goal is this. So we have to probably make compromises as we move forward, right? And the third thing is, I think, like I said before, the space to debate, right? So space to debate and be able to use data to debate. And I have been in situations where the debate turns personal and I will step in and say, okay, are we talking about data or are we talking about opinions? Opinions don't have any space in this debate. Let's talk about the data that we're using to debate, right? So I think those three things have been very helpful when it comes to conflict management. And like I said, as high performing teams, if my teams are not debating, something is off, right? Someone's not doing their job. So there should be healthy debate that we embrace, and we shouldn't be afraid of conflict.
What is it that you would, Ashwini, not stand when it comes to conflict within team members?
I think personal attacks, no space and no tolerance for that. Like I said, if you have an opinion about somebody, if you don't manage their performance, keep it to yourself. This is not a place, we are not running, a gossip magazine. We're trying to put out a meaningful product for our customers. So keeping it professional and to the point and data driven is super important. I won't tolerate any personal attacks. And two is at some point, somebody in the room has to say, okay, we've debated enough. We have to decide now, right? So be able to not let consensus building come in the way of decision making is another thing to be very conscious of. And I think we get mired in the consensus building sometimes, which slows us down. So those two things are things I won't tolerate. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't have consensus. I'm saying you have to collaborate. So debate, but no personal attacks, but also know when you need to stop building consensus and make a decision and move on. Both of those are important.
Perfect, and a lot of focus on collaboration, and that's what everyone should. We have so much more to talk, but we are running out of time, so we are going to move to our next round, which I have got a ping on not missing out. We want to do the rapid fire round, which we also call the future fast round. We all know about it. It's going to be fast. It's going to be fun. It's going to be one prompt from me, and then you complete my prompt. You give my answer. We'll do a round of every one. And since we have only 7 more minutes to go, we will do quick rounds so that we can also take some audience questions. Are we ready? I think we always are. Let's go. Number 1, Ashwini, pink or blue?
Blue.
Blue.
I know I'm wearing a pink blazer.
Pink when you want and blue when you want. That's perfectly fine. Beth, what's one mobility innovation you wish existed today? I know what Shubha wants today, but tell us what you want today.
I'd like to have flying cars again.
Okay. Cheryl, your go-to phrase when a project hits a roadblock.
Let's take a step back and think about why we're actually here. So, yeah.
Okay. Shubha, if mobility had a mascot, what should it be?
Roadrunner.
Okay. A lady roadrunner. Shreya, if your career was a mode of transport, what would it be?
A bullet train.
Yeah, that sounds fun. Ashwini, if you could instantly master one new skill, what would it be?
Future foresight.
Nice. Shubha, what's your superpower at work?
Collaboration.
Perfect. Cheryl, most underrated skill for women in mobility.
Public speaking.
Perfect. Beth, complete my line. I am where I am because
Because of those who supported me.
Beautiful. Shreya, change the system or create a new one if it's broken.
Dismantle the old one, crush it with your heels, build on it newly with everybody at the table.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Cheryl, one word that describes the future of transportation.
Exciting.
Nice. Beth, what's the first app you open in the morning? We're not deleting any longer, I promise.
Unfortunately, my email.
Well, you need it. Ashwini, lead from the front or empower from behind?
Both depending on the situation.
Perfect. Was hoping for that one. Beth, when the path is unclear, follow the data or follow your gut?
Ooh, follow my gut.
Nice. Shubha, true or false? The biggest breakthroughs come from saying yes before you feel completely ready.
Yes.
Perfect.
True.
Shreya,
Yeah.
what's that one thing, Shreya, you refuse to apologize in your leadership style?
For being messy, for being wrong sometimes. It's okay. I'm human. I'm not perfect. I'm sorry. Shit happens. Let's move on.
Perfect. Perfection and imperfection. Cheryl, curveballs at work, energizing or exhausting?
Energizing.
Energizing. I'm glad. Ashwini, when plans fall apart, improvise or innovate?
Innovate.
Innovate. Shreya, complete my line. I am where I am because.
I refuse to shrink.
Perfect. Thank you. On that note, I think panelists, you all did very, very well. Very nicely done. And now we take questions from our audience. We have very little time, but let's try at least a couple of questions here. Let me see what's the first question we have. How do you handle when you have very little support at home? Who would like to take this?
I can go.
Thank you, Shreya.
Hire them. I think we often think that it needs to be somebody within the framework, but it's incredible what people will do for you. Not only are you creating employment, you're also creating a line of sight that is decided by you and not by the frameworks that are pushed down towards you.
Thank you, Shreya. The next question, and maybe we'll take just two more. Hi, Beth. How do you engage the quiet voices, especially in typically male-dominated teams?
Ooh. So first I'll try to engage outside. Just engage and have a friendly conversation and just understand the person if I've never met them. And then maybe use that opportunity to just reflect and insight, hey, was there anything that you might have wanted to bring into that space? And then the next time we're in a group meeting, I might actually pan and zoom on them so that they have an opportunity and hold back the conversation so they have space to speak.
Wonderful. One last question. Have you ever felt tired in your career? Let's flip that a little bit, right? What motivates you? Shreya, what's your coffee?
I think the smiles on people's faces when you really listen to them or you give them space.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ashwini, what's your coffee?
I think when I see other people succeed, and even if it's not as part of my team, which will go on to find bigger and better opportunities, that is super exhilarating for me.
Perfect. We're taking one last question before we conclude. Shubha, what are the best ways to network with other leaders?
I think reaching out to them, right? If you have role models, if you think you're learning something from a leader, I think reaching out to them personally, asking for time out with them would be, I think, a good first step, right? And most of the leaders are willing to do that for you. Like, in spite of their busy careers, I have seen almost all the leaders set aside time to mentor, facilitate, and work with you on what you want. So I think reach out to them directly.
Perfect. Use your voices, women, use your voices. Let's do that. So we will not be able to take more questions, but please write to us. We've always said this. You have our email ID and you have our reach out channels, and please feel to reach out to us as and my organizing team who does a fabulous job every year, and we'll make sure that you get your responses and you get your answers. We are almost out of time, so I'm going to invite Mohit, who is our CMO based out of India, to quickly come and say a thank you to our panelists. Mohit, over to you.
Thank you so much, Jayada. Well, I'm speechless right now. And, I was thinking maybe there's an India-England match in between. I'll go, but I couldn't go. I was just, stuck to the panel discussion. So that's kudos to you, panel. So thank you so much for the incredible discussion. There were no traffic jams. There were no wrong turns in the discussion. Just great insights all the way. Truly powerful and motivating. And I'm sure all the participants have truly felt it. So from the bottom of my heart and from KPIT, I thank you all for time, honesty, and patience. And thank you. And we hope you will be joining us in the future editions to come and participating us along with Spirit. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohit. You've always been a champion, and we really, 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 truly value that. Thank you so much. So thank you, panelists, and of course, everybody who's joined from different parts of the world. It's been such a trooper for being with us, despite the match and the games that are happening, and despite the traffic, and despite the odd hours, because even if it's morning in the US, I know we have even people joining from Thailand, where it is almost 10 p.m. in the night. So thank you for joining along. We're going to close probably what poet Rumi said, right? When he says it's the non-acceptance of uncertainty that leads to fear. But once uncertainty is embraced, it turns into an adventure. And if I may have the audacity to add to it, you discover your path only when you start walking, and you're going to discover your voice only when you start talking. So on that note, let's embrace uncertainty and let's make it a great day. Continue reimagining mobility. And from KPIT, as always, thank you for joining. Have a wonderful